Hi there, and thanks for joining me. Now, you might wonder why I'm sat in the dark again. But if you've watched any of my previous videos, you would have heard about my plans for the cooker that's going into Sunnyview Villa. Now, initially, this cooker had the grill that was secured onto the front of it. And since my last video, I've actually put 3 orange flickering LED lights into the cooker. So initially, this was going to be secured onto the front. But while I was fitting the lights, it fell off. And I think that's rather fortuitous because I might actually now put it back on at an angle. So you can see it's almost like the grill is half open to give the idea of it flickering through the grill. Also, at the top, I wanted the orange lights to be flickering out the hobs as well. Now, this is quite a big cooker compared to the ones I've used before. The ones I've done before are probably 1/16 scale, I think, and this is 1/12 scale, so it's actually a bigger cooker, and it's made of wood. The ones I've done before are plastic, so the lights sort of shine through the plastic. But this is bigger, and the 3 lights in it kind of get a little bit lost, really. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another 3 lights here, so at least all 4 hobs should shine out with the orange light through them. Now, I've actually drilled holes in the hobs. These weren't here initially, so I drilled these, and I actually drilled the holes that went through to the cooker as well. And I was hoping that the orange flickering lights would shine into the cooker a little bit as well to give that idea of the cooker being on. That hasn't worked at all. As you can see, there's literally no light shining. Oh, let me just put it on. There's literally no light shining into the oven at all, which is a bit of a shame. So I think what I'm going to have to do as well is put some orange lights in the cooker, the oven part of the cooker as well, not just the grill. And then if I attach the grill door like this and then put lights into the cooker as well, then we should have a nice orange glow. So we should have the orange glows out through the top of the hob, in the grill and through the oven as well. Now, obviously, with the oven door being see-through, you're just going to see 3 orange LED lights in there, which is going to look a bit weird, isn't it? So I'm going to have to find a way of sort of tinting this, I think, to sort of disguise the fact that it's got lights in it to give that lovely orange glow. So that's my job for today, is I need to make up another 3 orange flickering LED lights here to go in the grill, and another 3, probably 3, to go in the oven as well. Now, the oven itself was actually sort of wood colour inside, and I painted it all black already, and I put a hole in the back. Now, initially, made the hole quite large because I thought I'd have to put the lights in from the back of the oven into here, because I say the grill door was secured on there, but the grill door fell off when I was putting the lights in, as I say, rather fortuitously, because I can reaffix it like that, and I think that would look rather nice. So in hindsight, I didn't need such a big hole in the back, and it's not very neat, but I'm going to cover that over so no one will see that. I'll just make sure I get the wires coming out through the hole, nice and neat and tidy, and then I can put something over the back to hide that away. Because where it's going into Sunnyview Villa, I don't know if you remember Sunnyview Villa, but it's the house that actually has windows on all 4 sides. So I can't really have a back that looks a bit ugly because it would be on show. So I'm going to want to cover that over to make it look all nice. So what I thought I'd do is I will video myself using the LED flickering lights, and we'll solder those up and get them put into the house. I thought you might like to watch me while I do that. Okay, so I'll see you in a bit. I'm just going to get the soldering iron out and get everything set up, put some lights on so I can see what I'm doing. I don't burn myself, and I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so here we are. Got my lights and all my bits and pieces that I'm going to need in order to get these wired up. Most importantly, got my cup of tea. Anyone who's watched my previous videos will know I like my tea. So I'm just going to get 3 of the lights out. And what we're going to want to do is we'll need to connect all 3 lights together so that we can then connect the wire onto the lights, which will go out to the back of the house like this one. So I did 3 already in the house. So I'm going to stick with another 3 on this side to keep it even. And then we'll have a play and see how many we need in the oven. But I think 3 seems to work quite nicely. So there's 3 lights for now. And you can see through the LED lights as well that the prongs are different lengths. You've got a long prong and a short prong. Now the long prong tends to be the positive and the short prong tends to be the negative. So we need to make sure that we connect all the positives together and all the negatives together. So you can see that was a little bit bent, but it doesn't matter actually, because by the time we connect it together, it'll be fine. You can see they're ever so slightly longer. It's not massively difference in length. You can see one slightly longer than the other one on all of them. And we'll connect the long ones together and the short ones together. So first of all, I'm just going to want to bend them. I'm going to decide which one will connect to the wire. So I'll probably connect this one here to the wire, and then I'm just going to bend the negative one out of the way for now. So I'm going to do the positives first. I'm going to do the long ones first. So this long one here, I'm going to want to connect to this long one here. I'm just going to want to bend that, move it over like this, so then I can solder that long one onto that long one there. And I'll do the same with this one. And I'll bend that one over, so the long cable, sorry, the long connector gets bent over. I should connect the long one onto there. Okay, so that's that one soldered on. And then I'm just going to want to cut that wire off because I don't need it anymore. And I'll do the same on this side. So I don't need that bit anymore. I just snip that off too. And the shorter cable on here was the negative cables. So again, I'm going to want to connect all the negative cables together. And if there's any risk of the negative and the positive touching, what I should do is I should put a little bit of heat shrink over the wire to stop it from shorting out as well. So I think I should turn that one round and go over to there, but I should need some heat shrink to protect that. So I'm going to use this one here as the main negative one. So I need to be able to solder this wire onto this wire here. Right, let's cut off some more heat shrink for this other one. Okay, so they're all soldered into place now, and I just need to get the hot air gun to heat the heat shrink so I can sort of melt it into place, or shrink it into place rather. I'm just going to put it onto the power supply unit. I've got a power supply unit here, and I've got a little dummy circuit board here. So I can just plug this in to make sure it's going to work before I do that. And there you can see the three lights are lighting up and flickering quite nicely, so I know they're okay. So I can then go and get the hot air gun, shrink those into place, and then start connecting the wire onto the back of the lights, which will be the wire that then come out the back of the cooker. Okay, so this is the wire that I use, and it's really nice because it's varnish coated, which means it's insulated against the other strands of the wire. What I do is I twist two of these strands together so that we've got one wire that goes into the positive and one wire that goes into the negative of our lights. I've already got some that I've already twisted together. I've got a handy tip on how to twist wire together as well, which I'll do in another video. Now, because they are varnish coated, what I will have to do is I have to remove the varnish off the ends where I want it to make a connection to the lights, and also at the other end as well, where I want to be able to eventually solder it into the circuit board. But for now, I'll just put it into the temporary circuit board. So I don't know how long I need these cables to be until I start putting them into the house. So I just start removing the varnish off the end of the wires, and I'll use one of these little blow guns to do that, okay? So you might have seen me just using A little bit of sandpaper as well. That's to remove any of the sort of leftover that there is. You know, when we burnt off the varnish, it leaves like a black sort of residue. So we just use the sandpaper to remove that black residue to make it all nice and clean. So the ends look quite nice. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect one end onto each of the wires. Doesn't matter which goes where, because this decides what's going to be positive and what's going to be negative. So there's a little bit fiddly to do. I just need to tim my ends first. That means just putting a little bit of solder on each of the ends first, and then it's easier to get them to connect together. Just grab a little bit of solder and we'll tim those ends. Right, and I also want to tim the ends of the lights too, so I should use my other little prong. It's funny, I do actually find soldering rather therapeutic. It's actually quite good fun. Never actually soldered anything until I started doing dolls' housing, so it's all rather new to me. It's rather good fun, I have to say. Just goes to show what I've been missing out on all these years. And then we should just be able to get these ends to solder together quite nicely. Okay, so I've actually made a mistake there, and I actually forgot to heat shrink one of the wires. So what I'm going to do is I should just unsolder what I've done. Very easy to do. You just put the heat on it, and obviously it melts the solder, and it all comes apart. I'll get a bit of heat shrink and put it over that wire instead. It's a trouble, so much to think about, especially when you're trying to talk at the same time. Okay, so I've now cut off a little bit of heat shrink and put it on the wire. So now I can go back to where I was and actually finish soldering up the wire. The heat shrink just means that if there's any bit of the wire, you know, where we removed the varnish so that we could connect the ends, if there's any bit of that wire showing, it just means it won't short out on the other wire, that's all. So you might have noticed I'm using this little handy tool. It's really grand just for holding the wires into place while you solder everything. Really saves your fingers. There we go. And now I can push that heat shrink up into place, and then it saves there being any connection between the two wires. I'm just going to go and heat shrink that now, and then I'll come back. I've just used the hot air gun just to shrink that heat shrink so it's nice and firm on the cable now. Stop it moving around. And I'm just going to use the blowtorch to remove the varnish off the other end of the cable. And then I can then plug that into our little portable dummy circuit board that I've got here, make sure that everything's okay, and then we can pop it into the cooker, and then we know that that's all ready and working. And then when I'm ready to, I can then solder the other end of the wire onto the circuit board, but that won't be to the very end of the project once I work out where the circuit board's going to go. And I think I've already decided the circuit board's going to be in the attic, hence why I've left the wire really long, because I need to better get it from the cooker, which is in the kitchen at the bottom of the house, right up into the attic. So I've left it way longer than I need to, but it's best to have too much than too little, isn't it? I'll just use the blowtorch to remove the ends. Okay, so that's the ends of the wires all treated now. So I've removed the varnish off the end and then just used the sandpaper to remove any sort of dirt that was left on the ends. I'm just going to plug these into my circuit board. Now I'm not sure which one's positive and which one's negative because it's a long cable. I'm just going to switch them on and see if there's any light. Aha! And yes, there is. I got it right the first time. So you can see that there's now power going through to the orange flickering LED lights, and they're now working fine. Okay, so I'm just going to change my little circuit board so we can see both sets of the LED lights in the grill on. So at the moment I've just got the one resistor and the one little jumper. So I'm just going to repeat this again with the same resistor and the same jumper so I can get both cables connected in there. Okay, so I've got my two wires coming out the back of the cooker. So I'm just going to plug one into one and one into the other. Of course, because they're very long and they get really tangled up. I say I like to keep them long because I don't know how long I'm going to need them. It's very difficult to plan at this stage. It's quite early in the process. Hopefully that makes it a bit clearer now and we can see the lights in the grill flickering quite nicely. Hopefully we can see some lights coming out for the top of the hob as well. And then we'll put the grill door, that's a bit jumpy this morning, back on at a bit of an angle so we'll get that lovely glow coming out through the grill. And I still don't think we've got any lights whatsoever shining down into the oven part of the cooker, have we? There's absolutely nothing at all down the bottom, unfortunately. So my plan didn't quite work there like I was hoping it would do. No, it's completely pitch black still in there. So I'm going to do exactly the same process again where I'm going to solder the three flickering orange lights together, and then I shall pop them in here. And then I need to find something to sort of tint this window here as well, so it's not so clear that it's just got lights in it. So perhaps you could give me your suggestions as to what you think I could tint this with. I'm not really too sure. I know you can sort of buy sort of tinted glass, can't you? But must admit, I don't know what it's called or anything like that. So if you've got any suggestions, I'd really appreciate it. So I'm just going to wire up another set of these three lights and pop them in the oven, and then we can see what the effect looks like with all three sets of three lights in there. So there's going to be 9 lights in total, so that's quite a lot, isn't it? But I think it's going to be worth it in the end. So I did have a quick think about whether or not I wanted to use different colour lights in the oven. And I think it might be weird having like a white light here and orange lights here. So I think I'll just stick with the whole of the orange, the flickering lights to give the effect that's going on in the oven. I mean, ovens tend to have that orange filament, don't they? So it makes sense sticking with the orange thing. I'm also going to put lights in the fridge, but that will be a white light that goes in the fridge. I'll do the same there. I'll drill a hole in the back and put the lights in the fridge and perhaps have the fridge door open so you can see the light coming out of there. And I'm also going to put lights in the fireplace as well. As I say, it's quite a big fireplace, but I think I've decided to keep that. And a lot of people agreed that it didn't look out of keeping in the house, even though it is quite large. But I do need to make a hearth and some coals and what have you for the fireplace yet. So I've still got that to do. Okay, so I've now secured all 3 sets of lights inside the cooker. So I've super glued them into place. And I've also glued in the grill door as well. So it looks like the grill door is sort of left open like it does when you're grilling food, doesn't it? I've also put some lights in the main oven as well. I say they look a bit stark, don't they, with just a see-through door. So I'm going to have to find some way of putting some sort of tint on that door so it hides away the lights a little bit. So it gives like an orange glow as if the cooker's on, I think. And through the hob as well, where I've drilled holes in the hob, you can see the glow coming up through the hob as well. So hopefully that will look okay in the house once it's in place and the house is all decorated. So I'm going to call that done for now for the cooker. I've ended up using 3 times the amount of lights that I thought I was going to use, but that's how we learn these things, isn't it? As I say, it's quite significantly bigger than the previous cookers that I've lit. I say this is a 1/12 scale, the last ones were 1/16 scale, so I reckon it's about that size bigger again, isn't it? And I say the last ones were plastic, so much easier to put lighting in it because it gave that glow much easier, whereas the wood obviously hides a lot of the light. But hopefully you can see that okay. I've pulled the curtains and I am sat here in semi-darkness, so hopefully you can see the lighting okay. And thank you for joining me on the journey as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can see what I'm up to next. And if you've got any comments, please put them below. I absolutely love hearing from everybody. It's just wonderful. I love your comments. I love your suggestions. People come up with the most amazing ideas. I really do appreciate it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.